All right, so I've been playing some Delta Force lately. I was able to get in last night, and I gotta be honest, Delta Force is an absolute blast. I love it. I love a lot of the features. I'm gonna talk about those in a second. I love kind of the gameplay flow, but there is something that you should know. They're lying to you. Welcome back to the channel, gamers. My name is Tacti. Today we're going to be talking about the closed alpha for Delta Force. Now, across the board, it seems like over there on Twitter, everyone's having a pretty good time with it. Me personally, like I said, I've had a lot of fun with the game. I think that it flows well. I think there are a lot of good mechanics in the game that I'm going to talk about. But again, I think that they're being a little bit deceitful. Whether that's morally wrong or not, I don't know. So first, what you need to know is that if you don't have a key, you can hop over there on Twitch and you may be able to get a key from somebody. You may be able to win a key by watching them. They are giving those out with Twitch drops. But there are two different game modes that we can get into. The first one is an extraction shooter, which is sort of like the DMZ. I think it does DMZ a little bit better than DMZ does, actually. And the other one is a battlefield style game where you can hop in and just explosions everywhere. Right now, it's a rush style of game mode, so you push forward, you've got attackers, defenders, you've got to capture each point as you move along the way. There are vehicles, there are infantry, there's a lot of stuff that will remind you of Battlefield. There's also the hero shooter mechanic as well. And I want to talk about that at the end because I didn't like hero shooter ideas. I didn't like the idea of hero shooters. They're not really appealing to me because they're a bunch of futuristic ideas. However, in this game, I think it works a little bit better than in Battlefield. I want to talk about that in a second. But let's first talk about graphics here and how it runs. Personally, for me, I have a 3090 and a 5950X, so I'm not going to have any problems doing this, right? I have no issues running most games. The game runs really smooth for me, but I've got that top tier. Either way, though, the game does look fantastic. The graphics look great. The rocks look great. I actually didn't know this was made on Unreal Engine 5. I do now. But personally, I have no issues with how the game looks. I think the terrain looks great, the animations look great, the movements look great. I think the game looks really, really good. But here in 2024, most games look fantastic, right? There's just not a lot of complaints that you can have in 2024 when it comes to the video games that we have. Moving on a little to the effects and the sounds. The effects visually look fantastic. The sounds, the weapons look superb. I don't have any complaints about that. However, I will say the directional audio and the distancing seems a little bit weird. Like sound, especially in the extraction game mode, is really important, right? And so there are some times that it seems like someone is super close to you. You expect them to come around the corner and then they don't show up. Like you still hear the sounds, but they're just not coming through. So that's one area that is a little bit rough in my opinion. The directional audio, distance-wise, it does give a good direction, but distance-wise just seems a little bit rough around the edges in my opinion. Now let's talk a little bit about customization because this is going to be one of the best things about this game. There are loads of ways to customize your weapons. I mean, it's got that Tarkov UI, Tarkov style UI, and when it comes to this, you can adjust things like how close the optic is to you or how close the grip is to you, and a lot of these things affect handling or your ADS speed. A lot like Call of Duty in that sense, but it's not as complex and you don't have to worry about that weird graph going to different parts. It's just not as complex, okay? It looks fantastic, it's really easy to use, and there are a lot of different parts to each weapon. Not only that, there are also a lot of weapons in the game, which all the models, again, look good. I gotta be honest, I might be simping for this game. I've just really enjoyed it and it feels really refreshing. And a lot of that, I think, is the movement speed. I want to talk about that for a second because there are two different movement speeds. So they do something with the Havoc game mode, which is like the Battlefield style game mode, and the Extraction game mode. Because in the Havoc game mode, you've got this tactical sprint that you can use throughout the map, right? So that's fine, right? That's normal, that's Call of Duty, that's Battlefield. You've got tactical sprint to speed up a little bit, and then, you know, regular sprint. So that's cool. However, it's a little bit weird warming up with that and then going into the Extraction game mode because the Extraction game mode doesn't have tactical sprint. All they've got is a regular sprint. So it's going to be a little bit slower with movement. So what that does is when you warm up with one, if you get used to one style of game mode and then you go into the other game mode, you're going to be trying to tactical sprint away from danger and just stop sprinting, right? Because if you hit shift again, you stop sprinting. So that's a little bit of a strange mechanic. Essentially, this is just interesting because they're going to have three different games essentially in one game, right? They're going to have the campaign, which is going to be grounded in realism. You're going to have a lot of like those slow-paced environments, I believe. And then you've got the Havoc game mode, which is the Battlefield style game mode, which is a little bit quicker. You're going to be moving around. You've got the hero abilities. And you've got the tactical sprint, and then you've got the extraction game mode, which is going to be slowed down a little bit. Same running speed, it looks like, but you're not going to have that tactical sprint. So it may be weird to transition from this to this to this, and you may not. I don't know. It may just be awkward, okay? For me, it was awkward because I was trying to run away and I was just stopping. So very interesting thing that they're doing there. But in general, I enjoy the movement speed a little bit better than Battlefield. Why I think this pacing is so good. Why I think they've done a very good job of selecting the speed here is that it's not as fast as Battlefield or Call of Duty. Like in Call of Duty, you can YY everywhere you want. You can be a goober. I don't know why you would do that. You just stop taking meth. I don't know. But even in Battlefield, the Battlefield movements are a little bit quicker than normal. But in this, I feel like they've slowed it down just a touch from Battlefield, which makes it feel a little bit better, which makes it so that I, as a dad, am not trying to outpace everybody. I'm not trying to jump all over the map, which is what Call of Duty is, and even some Battlefield. It feels good, okay? The movement speed feels a lot better than those games, and it seems appropriate for like the time to kill here. I think the time to kill is absolutely appropriate. And it leads to a lot of fun gunfights, though, in the extraction mode. Good luck getting away if you get double teamed here. But what I also think pacing does is that it slows down those hero abilities a little bit, so they're not they're not just crazy, right? Now, in Battlefield, a lot of people didn't like the specialists. They didn't like that hero shooter environment, and rightly so. I wasn't a fan either. I'm not a fan still. And I think a lot of that comes down to the movement speed and some of the mechanics there. It just seems like it's a little bit too fast paced. And also the graphics seem cartoony. They're almost too good in Battlefield. I don't know how exactly to describe it, but it doesn't, because it's so futuristic, it doesn't look like the game itself is a grounded, realistic game. This, on the other hand, because things are a little bit slower, because things aren't so spazzy, maybe because it doesn't look quite as realistic, at least the terrain. It looks a lot better, it feels a lot better, and those hero shooter abilities aren't just, it doesn't feel like they're spammed all over the place, which in my opinion is a good thing. I think that they add an interesting dynamic to the extraction game mode. I think that they add some unique abilities, and you and your squad can sort of communicate to figure out who wants to do what. Like for me personally, I used the recon. I was able to shoot some recon arrows with our team and sort of establish dominance in certain positions, or figure out where a team wasn't, so that we knew it was safe to go there, you know? And so I think despite being a hero shooter, despite having those mechanics, I think that they work really well in this game. Now, from a technical standpoint, the game had some issues, at least last night, right? The servers didn't seem super stable. There's a lot of desync. Granted, we were playing with someone from Australia, so that may have like played into it a little bit, but it just seemed jumpy, which is fine. You know, personally, I don't care so much about that in this alpha state. This is just a test to figure out how the game is going, how the game is running, if they need to do something, if they need to tweak those servers. And so hopefully they get those sorted out by release. I'm not super worried about it. What I'm worried about more is gameplay design, things like time to kill, things like speed, the pacing. Is it going to be right for me? And keep in mind, all this that I'm talking about is from my opinion, from my standpoint as a gamer dad, okay? A lot of those YY movements, I just can't do, all right? I can't keep up. I'll admit that. I don't care. Let's talk about the gameplay design of their extraction shooter, though, because I think this is one of the best features. I think they took what the DMZ did and made it even better, right? So the DMZ was this large open map that you could go around. You've got certain missions. Everyone's going in their different directions and doing specific missions, which is great. That's cool, okay? But what they didn't do correctly is they didn't have a good stash system. And personally, I don't think they had a good mission system. So there are specific missions in this game that you can do. There are side missions, but there are specific spots on the map that that draw players there. So one of my favorite things about Hunt Showdown is you have bounties. You go to this place or to this place, and all players gravitate to those positions, right? So you're gonna have big battles. You're gonna have people sneaking up on one another in those specific spots. And the DMZ really didn't do that. Now, they all went their separate ways. Like I said, you could get a lot of PvP in, but there were times that you could go in and just not encounter everybody. In this game mode, however, it draws you into those places to force you to PvP. Now, granted, this is a small section of the map. This is a small map that they've used. I don't think that this is going to be the only map. There are going to be bigger maps. This is just a tiny little one, okay? But they've done a really good job at forcing players to gravitate to a single position and then fight it out. And personally, that's my favorite kind of extraction shooter. And then you've got your stash management. You can upgrade your hideout and everything like that over there. Upgrade new things, unlock different traders. I think that when this game releases, it is going to explode. Absolutely, especially as a free-to-play model. That's what blows my mind. Now, I don't know how the monetization is going to be. Right now, it's fairly easy to level up and get coin, but I am very impressed with what I see, at least with the few games that I've had. But despite all those good things, they're doing something that I find interesting, and maybe it's not like malicious, but I have my doubts. So let's talk a little bit about what they're doing to what I think is increase player retention or increase that first impression, that experience with the first impression and the enjoyment factor, right? Because if you enjoy a game the very first time you play it, you're going to have a good first impression and you're going to be excited about it and you're going to want to jump into it. You're going to build hype. And I think that's what they're doing. I could be wrong. I'll talk about the alternative there, but pretty much everyone I've encountered in the extraction mode and some in just the Havoc game mode has been a bot. What they've been doing is they've been putting names with TTV or YT at the end to make it seem like that you're playing against real people. They'll have these random names, and then I check, and there's not a TTV there, right? There is nobody with that TTV name. Why would you put that name with TTV if you didn't have a Twitch, right? So I've checked, there have been several that I've checked over, and check out this engagement here. I want to show you that this is how, like, this solidified it for me that I'm not playing against real people. Yeah, so as you can see, they're shooting through the bush. They somehow know that I'm there, and they're missing on purpose. Just a very, very sus thing to do. And again, this could be because there's not enough people in this closed alpha. I mean, that could be the case. It could be that what they're doing is they're trying to, with those low levels, because I obviously haven't progressed super far, they're just using bots as a filler to provide that low level gameplay. And then once you get to a higher level, it'll just be humans. I don't know, but my thought is that they're just using it to increase the enjoyment of all the players hopping in right now and playing. I'll have to continue to play more to figure that out. Maybe I'll progress a little bit more, but again, I don't know if it's malicious. I don't know if they mean to do it in the sense that they're meaning to trick you. But it feels a lot like PUBG when I'm hopping into PUBG again and I'm just playing against bots. They're not very smart. So what do you guys think? Have you played it? From what you've seen, do you think the game is looking good? What do you think about the the bots everywhere? Do you think that's malicious? Do you think it's just to fill the gap because there's not a lot of players? You'll have to let me know in the comments down below. But for me, I am excited to play this more. I fell asleep, excited to play it more when I woke up. Didn't wake up in time because I slept in and then needed to make this video. So let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. If it didn't, dislike, subscribe for more. And until the next one, blend in until you need to stand out.